Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the evening session of the Research and Development for Business virtual event. To ensure that the event runs smoothly, we would like to request for participants who are accessing the event via Zoom to display your name and the name of your organization for easy identification during our Q&A session later. For your information, the RD4B secretary will be muting all participants throughout the virtual event. If you have any questions regarding the RD4B program, you may raise your question in the Q&A box, and the secretariats who are monitoring the Q&A box will try their best to answer your questions. Please make sure to indicate your name, the name of your organization, the questions, and the email address that we can contact for further clarification on your questions. You may also utilize the chat room to talk to participants. Today's event is also accessible via Facebook Live, and you may find the link to our Facebook Live in the chat room. Thank you for your attention and your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to RD4B event. For those who just joined us, this event serves as a platform for businesses to familiarize with government departments and agencies that are involved in promoting R&D in Malaysia, such as Ministry of International Trade and Industry, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Ministry of Higher Education, MIDA, Inland Revenue Board, and Collaborative Research and Engineering, Science and Technology Center, CREST, and also Cyberview Sdn Bhd. This RD4B program is a great avenue for new and existing businesses that would like to expand their businesses in the R&D segment to understand further on available government assistance in helping the businesses to make R&D investment. We will now continue the evening session with our next panelist from Inland Revenue Board, or better known as LHDN. Introducing to you Mr. Nik Ahmad Sharil bin Nik Muhammad Nabil. He is a graduate of UPM and holds an advanced diploma in professional taxation from the Malaysian Tax Academy. Mr. Nik Ahmad served as Assistant Director at LHDN Seremban branch for almost 10 years before being promoted to Tax Policy Department. Currently, he is a Senior Assistant Director attached to the Manufacturing, Trade, Mining, Agriculture and Forestry Consultation Division under the Tax Policy Department. With that, let us welcome Mr. Nik Ahmad to deliver his presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon. My name is Nick Ahmad Shahril bin Nick Muhammad Nabil. I am Senior Assistant Director from Manufacturing Consultation Division, Tax Policy Department, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia. On behalf of IRBM, allow me to extend a warm welcome to all participants. Today, I'll be talking about R&D expenditure in our tax system perspective. If you have any questions, please drop the questions at our chat box as we go along. Today, I will be covering these 3 points which provides in the following areas. First, an overview of R&D. Second, R&D expenditure under ITA 1967 and PIA 1986. And third, R&D expenditure, double deduction and single deduction. Okay, let's look at the interpretation in Public Ruling number 6, 2020. Approved research institute and approved research company means an institute including a company license under Section 45 of the Companies Act 2016, approved by the minister to mainly carry on research in an industry specified in the approval and to commercially exploit the benefit of such research. R&D company and contract R&D company has the same meaning assigned to it under Section 2 of the PIA and fulfills the conditions specified by the relevant ministry. And the last one, in-house R&D means R&D activity carried out in Malaysia by a person within his business for the purpose of using the results of the R&D activity for furthering his own business. There are several types of R&D companies: in-house R&D company, R&D company, and contract R&D company. The major incentives under PIA are pioneer status and investment tax allowance. First, we look at on pioneer status. Okay, in-house R&D and R&D company are not eligible to apply a pioneer status. Contract R&D company is only eligible to apply pioneer status, and the applications should be submitted to MIDA. The next one is regarding qualifying capital expenditure, which under ITA, all of them are eligible to apply, and applications also should be submitted to MIDA. Now we move to another incentives or deduction under Income Tax Act 1967. Three sections involved: subsection 34 bracket 7, section 34 capital A, and section 34 capital B. In-house R&D is entitled to claim for these sections where any deduction in respect of expenditure on R&D is made under this section. No deduction in respect of that expenditure shall be made under section 33. So how about R&D company and contract R&D company? They are not entitled to claim under those sections, but the qualifying R&D expenditure is allowable under section 33. Let's go on to R&D expenditure under ITA 1967. We have a few sections involved in ITA. The first section 33 generally allows revenue expenditure to be deducted, and capital expenditure is not deductible in arriving at the adjusted income. Second one, the Section 34. Special provision under Section 34 is applicable to adjusted income from a business. The third, Section 39, prohibits certain types of expenditure from being deducted from gross income. And fourth, subject to Schedule 3, qualifying expenditure for the purposes of this schedule is qualifying plant expenditure or qualifying building expenditure within the meaning of paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. As I mentioned earlier, in computing the adjusted income of a person from a source, certain expenses and outgoings are permitted to be deducted from gross income. The general principle is stated in section 33 as per slide. To be allowable under section 33, expenses must fulfill all the following characteristics: outgoings and expenses wholly and exclusively incurred in the production of gross income and does not fall into the section 39 restrictions. Now let's take a look at the incentive under paragraph 37 capital B, schedule 3 of ITA. A building constructed or purchased is used for research purpose as follows. Number one, approved research by the Minister of Finance as provided under subsections 34 capital A and 34 capital B of the ITA, or research undertaken by a research and development company or a contract research and development company as defined in section 2 of the PIA. The expenditure incurred on the construction of a building or part thereof for the above purposes shall include capital expenditure on the alteration or renovation of rented premises. The provision applies both to self-constructed buildings and purchased buildings. The allowances are provided at the normal rates of 10% for initial allowance and 3% for annual allowance. Okay, for the next paragraph, 37 capital D of Schedule 3, any company that approved under Section 34 capital A of ITA is allowed to claim a capital allowance for capital expenditure that incurred on machinery or plant. Now I like to move on to another subtopic on documentation of R&D that need to be highlighted. Okay, a company must have records available from different phases of a project, including number one, before when experiments occur to explain why there is an unknown outcome and new knowledge to be generated from an experiment. Number two, during the experiments to show that relevant observations and conclusions from the experiment. And number three, companies should take steps to thoroughly review the R&D expenditure positions and also ensure that the whole R&D projects are fulfilled under the new definition of R&D. Okay, documentation for outsourcing R&D activities. Number one, details of the R&D criteria. The R&D criteria is referred to the new definition on R&D. And the most important is that the service provider should state any technical risk or novelty involved in customer's project. And number two, details of the R&D projects and activities undertaken. Number three, contracts agreement with the service provider And number 4, proof of payment made for the service. Before we end our second topic, to summarize, the following conditions must be satisfied. Number 1, it must be in nature of a revenue expenditure and not in the nature of capital expenditure. Number 2, it must be laid out wholly and exclusively in the production of the gross income. The number 3, it must not be of the nature described in section 39, meaning that section 39 prohibits certain types of expenditure from being deducted from the gross income. And the last one, managing proper records and documentation of R&D. Definitely, the accounts for the expenditure incurred for each R&D activity must be kept separately, regardless whether the said activity has been approved or not. Failure to have such documentation, normally it would indicate the absence of the R&D activity undertaken. Moving on to the next topic, I'd like to share about qualifying R&D expenditure, Section 34 capital A, Section 34 capital B, and subsection 34 bracket 7 of ITA 1967. As you can see on the screen, what is the meaning of innovation and what is the meaning of R&D? Let's check out on these videos. Before rice can be planted, the soil should be in the best condition for crop and the soil surface is level. The land preparation involves plowing to level the soil. In this video, the farmer is using or modified a motorcycle on this activity. Is it R&D or innovation? Okay.
Kamu boleh nak.
On the next video, the company produced a LPG gas cylinder, maybe in a new material, same design property, and fulfill other international standards. So with this condition, is it R&D or innovation? For both videos, I will leave it to participants' discretion, either R&D or innovation. Okay. Now I'd like to turn to our main guidance and the policy procedure that are to be applied. Okay, we have published on our website the following public rulings and technical guidelines dated 13 August 2020 to provide guidance and clarification on the definition of R&D, the determination of whether or not a particular activity constitutes a qualifying R&D activity, the types of expenditure in respect of a qualifying R&D activity that would be eligible for special deductions, and also and technical guidelines the application process for the special deductions. And we also advise that Public Ruling Number 5, 2020, Public Ruling Number 6, 2020, and the technical guidelines should be read together. So, what exactly does qualifying R&D mean? In line with the definition of R&D in Section 2 of the ITA, the new public ruling stipulates that qualifying R&D activity is required to fulfill the following criteria. Number one, have an objective to acquire new knowledge, create a new product or processes, or improvement of existing products or processes. And number two, involve in something new or technical risk, and a systematic, investigative, and experimental or SIE study in the field of science or technology. All research and development activities must be fulfill the new definition of R&D under Section 2 of ITA 1967, which was amended effective 28 December 2018. Now we move on to the next subtopic, qualifying research and development expenditure. There are several types of expenditure which eligible for the benefit under the R&D incentive, such as Section 34 Capital A and Subsection 34 Capital 7, which include number one, raw material, number two, manpower, number three, technical services, number four, traveling cost, number five, transportation cost, number six, maintenance cost, number seven, rental, and number eight, other expenditure. Okay, we go for the number one, raw material. The raw materials used directly in R&D activity excludes the purchase of fixed asset used in R&D. If the raw materials used for R&D are taken from the business stock, the cost attributable to the said raw material must be separately identified and measured reliably. Okay, how about the small value asset? For example, the cost of molds, dyes, and also soft tools that have a lifespan not exceeding 1 year and cannot be reused would qualify for a double deduction, provided that these molds, dyes, and soft tools do not qualify for capital allowances. And number two, the manpower. A basic salary for an employee directly involved in the R&D activity. So we refer to the research employee. And number two, the expenditures such as EPF, SOCSO, bonus, medical fees, and benefits in kind would not qualify for the double deduction or a single deduction. If an employee is not involved in R&D activity on a full-time basis, for example, 50% on manufacturing side and 50% on R&D lab, the expenditure claim should be apportioned according to the actual time spent by that employee on that R&D activity. The next one is technical services. The technical services payment includes number one, consultancy fees paid to a particular R&D organization or individual for obtaining information or advice pertaining to the R&D activity that being undertaken. Number two, payment to particular organizations for the use of testing equipment such as those available in SIRIM, FRIM, and the universities. And number three, the payment to a particular organization or individual for analytical services and data evaluation processing. If the payment for R&D expenditure undertaken outside Malaysia is more than 30% of the total allowable R&D expenditure, the payment will not qualify for a double deduction. So this is a new amendment on 2021 budget. The 100% of the total allowable expenditure for R&D expenditure undertaken outside Malaysia is allowed as a single deduction under subsection 34 capital A bracket 4 of the ITA. The next one is a travelling cost. So definitely the expenditure that conclude under travelling cost is visiting R&D stations and attending courses or seminars. So the allowable expenditure includes travelling costs and daily allowances, which including the cost of food and lodging, cost and seminar fee. The daily allowance is restricted to RM 400 ringgit per person or the actual cost incurred, whichever is lower. The next qualifying R&D expenditure is transportation cost. A cost of transporting raw materials which used directly in R&D activity qualifies for a double deduction or a single deduction. The other expenditure that not related to R&D activity would not qualify for a double deduction or a single deduction. The next one is maintenance cost. The maintenance cost for motor vehicles, buildings, equipment, and machinery used directly in R&D activity qualifies for a double deduction or a single deduction. The next one is a rental. Some examples of this expenditure which are not related directly to R&D are rental of premises for administrative purposes, rental of motor vehicles, which including petrol, insurance, and road tax for R&D employees or consultants, and rental of machinery for production. A rental of motor vehicles, buildings, equipment, and machinery which use directly to the R&D activity are qualifies for a double deduction or a single deduction. And the last one is other expenditure. Claims for a double deduction or single deduction can also be made on other revenue expenditure incurred directly for R&D, such as water, electricity, telephone, fax, courier, stationery, photocopies of R&D reports or schematic design, ink, toner that used to print reports, lab coats, and slides or photograph. Other expenditures such as books or magazines, insurance, and all taxes such as service or road tax do not qualify for a double deduction or a single deduction. Now let's move on qualifying R&D expenditure under section RD4B of ITA. Approved Research Institute means an institute which has been approved by the Minister of Finance. Any cash contribution which is capital in nature will not qualify for double deduction. Example, a contribution made to Approved Research Institute for its building fund or for the purchase of a plant equipment will not qualify for double deduction. If the contribution is to be used for the benefit of an institute, they will get a double deduction. Okay, these are some of examples of approved research institute, such as MARDI, FRAME, Malaysian Rubber Board, Malaysian Palm Oil Board, MPOB, and those universities. In the next point is a contract R&D company. They are eligible to apply for those incentives as I mentioned earlier. As we know that the contract R&D provides R&D services to a company other than its related company. The non-related companies are entitled for double deduction. The last one is R&D company. They are eligible to apply for those incentives as I mentioned earlier. Okay, if any person who pays for the use of services of R&D company that is not related to conduct a qualifying R&D activity, that person qualifies for double deduction on the qualifying revenue expenditure under section 34 capital B of the ITA. Okay, where R&D company has been given ITA and the period has not ended and provides R&D services to a related company, the related company would not qualify for a double deduction under section 34 capital B. However, such related company may claim a single deduction on the qualifying revenue expenditure under subsection 34 bracket 7 of the ITA. As we bring our topic to a close, we once again thank you to our organizer, Maida, for allowing us to be here this evening, and hope that my presentation has given you a much clearer understanding of R&D expenditure. If anyone who like more information or has inquiries, please feel free to fill up the inquiry channel Google form after the end session, or contact our head of division. And on that final note, that concludes my presentation, and that brings us to the end. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention today.
Thank you, Mr. Nick Ahmad Sharil, for the informative presentation. Now we will turn to the presentations from two panels from the Ministry of Higher Education. First up, I would like to invite Dr. Wan Nur Aisha binti Wan Omar. Dr. Wan Nur Aisha holds a PhD from the University of Nottingham and her master's and bachelor's degree are from UKM. Previously, she was Deputy Director of the Tibet Coordination Division, Departments of Polytechnics and Community College Education, MOHE. Her experience includes being directly involved in the formulating the policy direction and strategies for the 12th Malaysian Plan to review the education system. Currently, she is the Deputy Undersecretary, Policy Planning and Research Division, MOHE, and in charge of the PPRN and Research Section. With that, the floor is now yours, Dr. Wan Nur Aisha Wan Omar.
Good afternoon. I'm Wanda Aisha. I'm from the Ministry of Higher Education. I would like to thank MIDA and thanking the Ministry of Higher Education to participate in the research and development for business program. Today, I would like to share with you the initiative provided by the Ministry of Higher Education, that is Public and Private Research Network 2.0. Let me share with you the slides. Public-Private Research Network is an innovative initiative by the Ministry of Higher Education to encourage demand-based innovation programs with the aim to increase the productivity and strengthen Malaysian economic development. The government provides matching grants to support the development of demand-driven innovation projects. Some of the objectives of the PPRN are, the first one is to strengthen public-private network through higher education institutions and public research institutions by providing solutions to the industries. The second objective is to increase productivity through innovations and appropriate technology. The third objective is to encourage the participation of researchers to provide solutions based on industry demands. There are 5 focus areas that are manufacturing, agriculture, services, construction, mining, and quarrying. This is one of the success stories of PPRN. In this project, the industry or the company faced a problem. That is, 2 workers were needed to process 70 to 100 kilogram per day of fish, or equivalent to 3 tons per month at the fish factory. So therefore, the solution was that the researchers from UTEM and the company that is Hasil Laut Paksu teamed up to develop an automatic fish fillet machine that could process 30 fish per minute. As a result of the collaboration, the company's productivity has increased from 3 tons to 11 tons per month, and the process is also more hygienic and safe. The matching grants contributions. For this initiative, the companies and the government share the project cost. For the micro companies, they need to contribute about 10% of the cost, whereas the government will share the 90% of the cost, and the maximum grant amount can be up to 50,000 ringgit. For the small companies, they need to contribute 30% of the cost, whereas the government will contribute 70% of the cost, and the maximum grant amount will be up to 150,000 ringgit. For medium-sized company, they need to contribute 50% of the cost, and the government will contribute another 50% for up to RM 250,000 ringgit grant amount. For the large companies, they contribute more, that is 70% of the total cost, whereas the government will share 30% of the cost, and the grant amount can be up to 350,000 ringgit. The criteria of the companies. The companies must have SSM, that is registered with the Companies Commission of Malaysia, whereas for the businesses in Sabah and Sarawak, they need to be registered with the local authority. The companies must also have annual sales turnover of more than 100,000 ringgit and proof of company's latest 6-month bank statement for businesses or audited account for company for the last 3 years. The companies must also demonstrate performance and evaluated by agencies or platforms such as SME Corporation Malaysia, PUNB, MTDC, SIRI, MARA, MDET, MITE, and the others. And they must be in the categories of competitive and viable companies. The companies must also have a business premise registered with the local authority or an incubator center registered with the agency. The majority ownership of the company must be 51% owned by Malaysian citizens, and they must be in operation for more than 1 year. The products and services to be improved or to be given added value under PPRN initiative must be on the market or offered for at least 1 year. The companies that have received PPRN funds must wait for at least 1 year before applying, before sending in a new application. Companies, startup companies cannot collaborate with researchers from the same higher education institution or private research institution. For the research, it is for the researchers. The initiative is open to all researchers under any higher education institutions and private research institutions. The head of the researchers must be permanent or full-time contract employee, and they the head of the lead researcher must have at least 24 months in service. The lead researcher must also be a Malaysian citizen. The researchers must have expertise, skills, and knowledge in the project that they apply for. And the lead of the researcher must not on a study leave or sabbatical or continuing studies or doing industrial training or its equivalent. The researchers must also only lead one project at a time or be a member of one project at a time. The researchers of the PPRN project cannot apply for a new project until the existing project is completed. The researchers must also not have any conflict of interest with the companies that they are collaborating with, and researchers who have been blacklisted cannot apply for PPR project until the suspension period ends. For further information, you can look up the guidelines and fill in the forms at the link provided. Thank you for listening. For any other information, please contact our secretariat at the through the email or through phone calls. That's all from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wan Aisha, for the presentation. Now, the second presenter from the Ministry of Higher Education will be Ms. Yogita V. Muniandi. She holds a Master in Public Administration from University of Malaya and has been serving for 15 years in the government. Currently, she is the Principal Assistant Director at the Centre of Excellence section under the IPT Research Excellence Division, Department of Higher Education. So now, let us welcome Ms. Yogita V. Muniandi to deliver her presentation.
Selamat petang, salam sejahtera, and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to share about Centre of Excellences, ICOE, across universities. ICOE is a program under the Ministry of Higher Education, Department of Higher Education. Now, let's look at what is ICOE. ICOE ratings is awarded to highly performing center of excellence in the field of niche research. ICOE nurtures towards achieving international standards as well as supporting the country's 9 priority areas. Now, why we need ICOE? ICOE drive higher education institutions' research excellence in the field of niche research. It also encourages leaders in the field of niche research to be known, to be recognized national and also at international level. Let's look at the vision, mission, and also objective of ICOE. Basically, ICOE is divided into 2 categories, namely research and innovation and also services. So the vision, mission, and objective differs according to these categories. Now, for research and innovation, the vision is to achieve the level of an internationally referred and acclaimed research entity in related fields. The mission is to develop knowledge in related fields by conducting fundamental research and disseminating research findings through renowned platforms. Followed by objectives, provide basic knowledge for applied research in technology development, build a network of collaboration and sharing of resources and expertise with agencies from within and outside the country, and of course, finally, become a renowned reference center in the field of niche research. Now let's look at the vision for services. To offer research-based services that generate income or finance. Now this is different with the research and innovation. The main objective or the vision is to generate income from that center of excellence. The mission to achieve the level of relevant research-based service entities referred and acclaimed in related fields internationally. Now the objective is to again generate income and knowledge transfer in the services related, to become national reference center in the field of niche research, develop talent for continuity of the entity and needs of the country, and finally leading a network of cooperation among higher education institutions and agencies in the field of niche. So that is why the ministry is allocating the funds for all the center of excellences, performing center of excellences, when they achieve ICOE to perform fundamental research and to achieve all those outcomes. Now, this is the national priority areas. This is based on the 11th Malaysia Plan. So there are 9, namely food security, energy security, plantation crops, cyber security, water security, biodiversity, healthcare and medicine, environment and climate change, transportation and mobility. Currently, there are 21 ICOEs nationwide. These ICOEs have their own niche so that they can focus on the study according to the national priority areas, and the niche is focused on the research area. This shows the mapping of the 21 ICOEs with 9 national priority areas. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you can go through this slide so that I don't have to go through one by one, but basically it's a distribution of all the public universities, and there is one private university. This slide shows the list of ICOE by batches Okay, ICOE started in 2010, followed by all the ICOEs consequent years until year 2020. Last year, we had one from UMT, University of Malaysia Terengganu, which is Aquatrop, and the niche area is future food, sustainable shellfish aquaculture. This slide shows the list of ICOE with the IPTAs, the public universities, and the niche area that I've mentioned just now, and also the year that the rating has been awarded to ICOE. So we started way back in 2010, followed by the latest one in 2020 that I've mentioned before this slide. Now let's look at the success story of the ICOEs. When we talk about success story, there are so many impacts to various parties. For example, there are impact to the society, impact to the industry, academia, to the nation, and also national, international wise. Okay, now a good example impact to the society will be Power Energy Dedicated Advanced Center. This is from Now, what they have done is the rural electrification, ensuring long-term sustainability through community aligned renewables empowerment. So these pictures here shows that they are working on an installation of micro PV inverter using a prototype. Okay, on the other hand, we have impact to the industry. Now, a very good example will be Photonics Research Center from as well. They were working on the optical cable testing services for Wuhan Fiber Home International Telecom Malaysia. This is a collaboration with both parties, where Wuhan Fiber Home International is one of the leading optical cable suppliers for Telecom Malaysia. In 2019, Wuhan Fiber Home has procured the services of this center for testing and specifications and quality of optical cable supplied to Telecom Malaysia. Now let's look the impact on overseas collaboration and networks. USM had achieved a significant grant in this field. CDR, or Center for Drug Research from USM, managed to obtain international grants amounting around 5.8 million to conduct research on the best medical methods for drug addicts and people living with HIV and also AIDS. Now, another achievement will be Institute of Noise and Vibration, IKG, from UTM. They were focusing on the Klang Valley MRT Sungai Buloh line, detailed noise and vibration analysis and mitigation design. The project is implemented together with MMC Gamoda, involves detailed analysis and design of impact mitigation for Sungai Buloh Kajang line involving underground works. Now let's continue on the impact towards nation. Tropical Infectious Diseases Research and Education Center from managed to get certification for kit severe dengue ELISA kit in December 2019. This kit is used to determine or diagnose severe dengue in dengue patients. Now let's look at the achievement of Institute of Microengineering and Nanoelectronics, IMEN from UKM. Now their niche is on the artificial kidney. So the artificial kidney project of the institute has entered a testing phase to test the functionality and effectiveness of the prototype. Another achievement is on the academia. Now, ARI, Accounting Research Institute from UITM, managed to get this recognition. One of the researchers got this award recognition to the academy at the international level, second most influential women in Islamic Business and Finance 2019. Now, this award recognizes the dedication and passion in promoting Islamic financial criminology and contribution in helping Malaysia achieve its aspiration of becoming an Islamic financial hub. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now looking at the way forward. Okay, when we talk about way forward, there are a few things that the ministry is looking at. Okay, the first one will be referral point. ICOE to become a major reference in the field of niche at national and international levels. The second one is shared resources. In these shared resources, we are hoping that the ICOEs can share the resources at national and international level. Of course, again, as mentioned before, the niche will be focused on the national priorities areas and also the national prosperity vision under the 12th Malaysian Plan. Quality is another priority, and collaboration with research entity is also a priority so that the researchers reduce dependence on government funds. On that note, at the ministry level, we are working at improving the niche and also introducing new niche of ICO. Based on KEGA, or Key Economic Growth Activities, there are few new sectors which will be incorporated into the new niche of ICOE. Of course, SDG will also be given priority in this in this process of reviewing ICOE. And finally, 10 by 10, my SDI framework from mostly which focuses on Malaysia's socio-economic drivers. So there are basically 10 science and technology driver, which is also incorporated in the new ICOE niche area. So basically, I end my presentation with that note. And if there is any question, I have given here my contact details. Feel free to contact me for further information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yogita, for the presentation on Higher Institutions Centers of Excellence. Next, we have together with us today the CEO of Collaborative Research in Engineering, Science and Technology Center, CRES, Mr. Jafri Ibrahim. Mr. Jafri began his career as an IT entrepreneur before being managing consultant at Oracle Corporation at the onset of Malaysia's MSc program. He later joined Arthur Andersen's Business Consulting Division and then at Gemini, Ernst & Young. Prior to joining CRES, he was Vice President of Business and Technology Advisory Divisions of Malaysia Debt Ventures, MDV, Sdn Bhd. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Jafri Ibrahim, CEO of CRES, to deliver his presentations.
Hello, my name is Jafri bin Ibrahim. I am the CEO of Collaborative Research in Engineering, Science and Technology, or better known as CRES. Let me run through a couple of slides with you to basically share with you our story. Okay, so let me share with you how it all began. Essentially, after dialogues with the captains of the industry, the EPU minister challenged the captains of the industry to present their case to the Economic Council in 2011, which they did. And essentially, everybody was in agreement to set up CRES, and we began operating in 2012. Who we are, we're a industry-led collaborative platform for market-driven R&D. We try to bring the best out of academia, industry, and government. And basically, we have since 2012, we have 161 R&D projects has been approved, collaborative R&D projects. We've got 100 industry and university members. We've got 14 chat facilities available to the members of PRESS. We also host startups at our incubator called PRESS Place. We also have a database of subject matter experts. We've got more than 2,000 of them to be shared to those who wants to collaborate. We also have trained 10,000 university and industry talents in our programs. Just to share with you, the board of PRESS, helmed by the CEO of MIDA, Dato' Azman. We also have representatives from the companies such as Osram, Intel, Clarion, Silterra, Kazana, Motorola, Renesas. And we've got representatives from the Northern Corridor, and MOSTI, as well as the universities now represented through USM. We've also got an advisor, a former director of PRESS, who has since retired, but is now back as an advisor. We've got 107 members today. About 55% of them are the SMEs and local companies. 19% comes from the local universities, and 20% of our members are the multinationals. We basically have a lot of dialogues with the industry to basically decide on the areas of focus for them. When we first started in 2012, we basically identified LED, IoT, as well as IC design as the areas that they are most keen to collaborate with the universities and the local companies. And we report back every 2 years to the stakeholders, and basically we have expanded to the advanced materials, Industry 4.0, and drones and autonomous vehicles subsequent to 2014. Apart from developing the capabilities in these cluster areas, we basically also apply the capabilities in verticals such as digital healthcare, precision farming, future transportation, digital manufacturing, innovative and intelligent cities. Okay, but we're not limited to those. Those are the areas that we're kind of focusing right now. Just to share with you some of the impact that we've created over the last 9 years. In the area of R&D, we've basically collaborated and approved 161 projects, of which that involves 102 companies and 25 universities. While we started, 64% of the funding or the collaboration comes from the industry, and 36% comes from government through our PRESS grants. We've also developed talent in our time, 516 industry talents and technopreneurs. We've got more than 250 students who have achieved their master's and PhD degrees. We've basically prepared these more than 8,000 students to be industry ready. And as we've mentioned before, we've got 20 technology startups in our incubator. One among the cluster development programs that we have, one that I'm particularly proud of is the gallium nitride program. It is a 5-year program to which we've collaborated with a Nobel Prize winner to develop next generation LED to be owned, the IP to be owned by Malaysia. So in terms of commercialization in our efforts, we've managed to attract at least 5,000 billion in terms of foreign investments into the country. And also our commercialization rate is at the moment at 28%, which is pretty high. Just to share with you some of the companies that we have collaborated with in our R&D. These are some of the logos of some of the local SMEs, as well as the large local companies, as well as the multinational companies. Statistically, we've got 60% of the collaborators comes from the SME and large local companies. 27 IPs has been identified. We've basically filed 44 IPs as well as we've been granted 7. We have, in a year, we open up our R&D grants in 2 cycles. One that begins in the beginning of the year, 1st January, and one that basically also opens mid-year on the 1st of July. We've got 2 products, the open R&D grant as well as targeted R&D grants. You can basically find out more if you go to our website. In our talent development programs, we have 3 different programs. One that basically focuses on the youth, primarily in the secondary schools. And basically it's based on STEM education. And we've got our industry representatives going into the secondary schools to tell them about what a life of an engineer is like and more. And they have factory visits. In the seed category, essentially we work with the 3rd and 4th year students in the universities. Basically, we have industry representatives do agile lecture and also do hackathons and a lot more. In the nurture category, basically we focus on graduating our postgraduate with masters and PhD. Some of the success stories that I would like to mention. The one we have here is one with UTM and NASAM, as well as DF Automation, Sdn Bhd. Basically, they've developed a robotic device to help rehabilitate stroke patients. And basically, they've now achieved this device, and they use gamification to assist the stroke victims to help them with their progress. Another one that I would like to talk about is essentially a collaboration between USM and Motorola. Essentially, the collaborators here developed a mouthpiece for the 2-way radio for Motorola, and since they've basically completed this project, Motorola has adopted this design for all their 2-way radios that is rolled out globally. One more project that we love to mention as well is this machine vision project, to which it uses AI to detect micro cracks on the wafers of solar panels. This is a collaboration between USM and TT Vision, to which they've basically developed the device and have since then sold a number of these devices in the marketplace. Again, to talk about our international collaboration, we have a 5-year program, and we have developed a lab, essentially a global class lab in UM and USM to do gallium nitride research. This collaboration is with a Nobel Prize winner, Professor Fuji Nakamura. And this program involves companies such as Osram, Inari, Pencam, Itramas, as well as universities, USM, University Malaya, Monash Malaysia, as well as UNIMAP. Okay, since then we've basically achieved our own IPs to develop next generation LED devices. I would also like to, use an example where, in our incubator, Crest Place, we had basically 3 former employees from Intel, and basically they've been trained all over the world in designing IC design. They've decided to take the plunge and start a company. Since then, they now hire 180 engineers to do IC design, doing business in more than 5 countries around the world in the area of 7 nanometer IC design. So this is a great achievement for Opstar. A quick, mention of our collaboration with a doctor who also loves to design and develop software. This doctor comes from Australia. They stepped into CREST with a prototype. We since developed this prototype into a product that is going to be produced out of Penang for the global market. And we've also started collaborating with Dr. Naya here with his device called Steffi, with multiple collaborations in Malaysia using this device. I just wanted to share with you some of our plans going forward. After the first 9 years, we basically have programs that we are keen to develop with the government and our ecosystem. We want to basically go deeper into the R&D that we've started. We've also got more programs for talent. We've got a program to introduce new products into the marketplace, as well as to go deeper into the gallium nitride research with communications, deep UV, and micro LEDs. We also want to go further with our digital healthcare program, as well as the innovative and intelligent city. And also we've got a program around precision agriculture. So while we've started in Penang to serve the country out of Penang, we've also now have plans to initiate similar programs in other parts of the country, and to work with the multiple areas beyond the E&E sector. So I hope that was useful for you. It's just a quick snapshot. Do send us your questions at info@crest.my, or also check us out at using our website, crest.my. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey, for the presentation. Now, last but not least, I would like to invite for the presentation by Cyberview Sdn Bhd, a company owned by the Ministry of Finance of Malaysia. From Cyberview, we'll be having Ms. Shafina Salim with us today. Ms. Shafina Salim is Head of Technology Hub, Development Division of Cyberview Sdn Bhd. Previously, she also served as the Strategy and Planning Manager under the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Today, Ms. Shafina is responsible for strategizing, designing, developing, and executing key enablers to elevate Cyberjaya into a global technology hub. Ms. Shafina, the floor is now yours.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of Cyberview Sdn Bhd, I would like to thank MIDA for inviting us to be part of this R&D for Business program. Today, I will share some latest insights from Cyberjaya, a thriving living lab. Cyberjaya is getting ready itself being the next global technology hub. Located in the state of Selangor with an area of almost 7,000 acres, we are located next to the central government administration city, Putrajaya. And at the same time, we are not far off from the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and our accessibility through the roads and highways through the Kuala Lumpur City Centre gives it Cyberjaya as the place to be, particularly for technology companies. And in the late of 2019, Cyberview has been mandated by the government to revitalize Cyberjaya, of which our responsibility is to develop the South Innovation Zone of Cyberjaya and also attracting the R&D and also technology companies to work together with the community and also for Cyberview working on this with the Ministry of Finance and also other government agencies relevant in this area. And for Cyberjaya, we have our distinct offerings for the past 20 years that we have developed in terms of our ecosystem, be it in terms of our infrastructure. When we first started off with quite a number of multinational companies, and now we're seeing a flourished number of the startups due to the initiatives and programs by some of the government agencies that are located in Cyberjaya, from the likes of Magic, AMDEC, MITE, MCMC, and so forth. We have also diverse talent pool due to the presence of the universities and colleges here in Cyberjaya. And most importantly, the latest birth of the Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center, being the one-stop center for businesses and investors that may have inquiries and exploring to set up their presence here in Cyberjaya. And in a nutshell, the key value propositions that we have put in place for Cyberjaya not just cover in terms of our infrastructure, being the connectivity in terms of the physical infrastructure, as well as the soft infrastructure that may come from the connectivity, and also from the talent ecosystem, and also the zoning of the areas in Cyberjaya itself that will focus and concentrate on the emerging technologies and ready for the future. We're also working closely with agencies like MIDA that currently have multiple incentives that may benefit the technologies and also businesses and investors as far as they have their presence here in the country. Some statistics, if I may share, on Cyberjaya today. We are highly populated now, not just with the working professionals or IT engineers, but we also have the students population. To date, we have over 140,000 population among the business investors, students, and also residentials. We have also a number of technology companies that started off with over 40 multinational companies. And we have also seen the growth of the number of small, medium enterprises in the software services, and also the startups, particularly that are seeing now taking up their presence physically here in Cyberjaya. And on top of that, we are fully well connected, and also aside as for the physical infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier, but we're also ready in terms of the next the MRT line 2 that is expected to be ready and in operation by early 2023. And through the Revitalizing Cyberjaya Master Plan, Cyberjaya now can be seen in 4 zones. One is when we first started off in the downtown Cyberjaya. This is where the concentration of the pioneer multinational companies, and as well as the other amenities and businesses, the retail, F&B. And we have also in the North Cyberjaya, this is where the next global business district will be. And we also have the West Cyberjaya, where the concentration of the universities and colleges, as well as the schools, both international schools, secondary school, and primary school. And most importantly, our next future plan will be in the South Cyberjaya. This is where the innovation district is placed, the center of which CyberView is looking at focusing in the new clusters, of which 3 technology clusters have been identified. 1 is the smart mobility, 2 is the smart healthcare, 3 is the digital creative cluster. In the space of the smart mobility, we're looking at those technologies or companies that are looking into the likes of intelligent smart systems, be it in the area of the ground mobility as well as the air mobility. Or in a simple words, what we know today is the likes of drone, or the likes of the autonomous vehicle or driverless car being innovated or being R&D, and also being tested, and also what we see, hopefully one day we can see this on the road. We're also looking at the smart healthcare cluster. This is where, with the invent of the new technologies in the Internet of Things now become the Internet of Medical Things, this is where the devices in the medical space are now getting smarter and interconnected, with not just in the systems in the hospital, it's also all the way to the services that have been provided down to the public in the provisioning of the health online services. Digital creative, we're looking at Cyberjaya has seen the growth of our local homegrown animation companies, the likes of Wow Animation with the IP character of Agent Ali, Animonster with the character of Bobo Boy, and Digital Durian that has innovated multiple IPs to the characters of the Didi and Friends. And not just that, in these, aside from the animation or creative companies, we're also looking at those in the software technologies in the area of the AI, AR, extended reality, and many more. And underlying this, for Cyberjaya, when we came up with the Global Technology Hub blueprint, we have also the 10 technology focus areas. From these 3 tech clusters, there are 10 tech focus areas that are very much relevant, where be it in the big data analytics, the cloud computing, the Internet of Things, information security is very important now, green technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, and system integration. And one of the strategic pillar for Cyberjaya getting into the Global Technology Hub, we also seeing the smart city focus areas. How these technologies is translated into smart city enabled technology and services. We have divided into 4 quadrants in the area of infrastructure, economy, environment, society. I'll go through in the subsequent slides of some of the examples when we look at the types of technologies in the area of the smart city. And the revitalizing Cyberjaya will not happen without the signature programs and initiatives that we offer. Number 1 is through our Cyberview Living Lab programs. This we are covered in the area of the ecosystem enabling part, of which we cover the talent. We also cover the accelerator. This is more for the startups. We also have the Living Lab pilot and also enterprise that will take the companies further into the accessibility to the market ecosystem. And our last year, we've given birth to our one-stop center called the Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center. This is where the support services may be needed from R&D companies in terms of setting up R&D projects or R&D facilities. And this is where Cyberview can play the role in facilitating and link you up with the relevant authorities that may be required in terms of licensing or funding assistance, as well as other facilities customized to your R&D needs. And to date, through our Living Lab programs, some successes and achievements that we have seen. From the Living Lab talent, we have not just covered from the K-12 programs where we have our Digital Maker Hub located here in Cyberjaya, where Cyberview actually collaborate with AMDEC in also working with the other partners in bringing programs to nurture the young talents. We also work with the universities, where we have our some of the universities that are currently located, the likes of Multimedia University, University of Cyberjaya, Lim Kok Wing University, as well as other universities within the vicinity, to make sure that the talent is ready and meet the industry requirements. And our Living Lab Accelerator, this we have made our mark, where we have nurtured over 80 startups, and this happened in batches for a program where the startups will have to go through for up to 5 months, where we will have to refine the business plan, get them to demonstrate and pitch to the venture capital or angel investors, as well as potentially to partner up with other corporates in getting traction in terms of their funding assistance, as well as their market development. We have made some of our startups through this program, whether in the local market penetration, that they've also embraced their investments locally and internationally. They've also able to export some of their products regionally. Our smart city pilot also has made some achievements this is where Cyberjaya being the true living lab, where you're not just developing solutions in your office or in your facility, rather you're testing out your innovation out in the actual environment, making use Cyberjaya, the city, and of course, depending on the kind of specific target you're looking at for your innovation and services that will penetrate the specific market. Here, the likes of, you can see some of the known logos like Touch and Go, Boost, Tappay, in the space of the payment technologies, the likes of Jom Parking. You may have used the apps in your parking solutions when you park your car, not just in Cyberjaya, also all the way down in KL or even in Kota Baru. So these are some of the startups and SME tech companies that have piloted through the facilitation that Cyberview has provided through these tech companies. And last but not least is our Living Lab Enterprise. This is where accessibility to the market ecosystem in commercializing your products, whereby Cyberview established networking and linkages with the likes of Chambers of Commerce internationally, as well as with other government agencies that will be able to help the R&D companies to roll out your R&D tech products and services out in the market. This is to show some of the actual companies and also the innovation and R&D products that we're able to facilitate in Cyberjaya. One example would be Recascape. This is the Center for Retail Entrepreneurs, Innovation and Creativity, of which that we have helped startups to have not just their physical shop, but also we have our first 5G open lab, where technology companies can test out their application and services to make sure it is 5G ready, as far as Malaysia is ready to roll out the 5G by the year 2022 onwards. And we also have use cases in terms of how we're supporting the green technology or green industry through the electric vehicle and also its infrastructure in terms of the charging station. In Cyberjaya alone, we have at least 10 charging stations that have deployed, where we partnered with the Malaysian Green Tech Corporation and also with the technology companies that provide the electric vehicles. Trike is another example of our local startup that into micro-mobility. Well, what it means is that the electric scooter that you may have seen in Cyberjaya, or in later on you might be seeing this in Putrajaya, as well as in Kuala Lumpur. This is also to enable people to move from one point to another without taking your car, but maybe through a cheaper means of the likes of e-scooter. And I think behind this technology, it's not just about the technology and the services being provided to the tech companies or even to the city authority. A lot of data has been collected from Track, for example. They have able to collect 16,000 ridership in the month of 6 months during the pilot stage. How it will be useful to them and also for the city authorities is in terms of the future planning, how we can further roll out such more micro-mobility services. Cashless Society Cyberjaya is another initiative. When Cyberview started this initiative 2 years ago with Boost, and now we're seeing Touch and Go digital and other e-wallet payments. And timely enough, with the pandemic or the COVID-19 situation, the acceleration of not just for the businesses or the merchants to be onboarded on the payment technologies, as well as the consumer making use of these e-wallets to do transaction. And our latest offering for R&D and tech companies will be our soft landing space or soft landing zone, that where we brand it as a co-space. What it means is that for companies that are still exploratory stage in the city of Cyberjaya, and also maybe you're new to this country, you want to explore what's the market opportunities, you may want to have an initial placement, we have our soft landing zone, whereby we offer up to 2 seats in a co-working space environment where you have access to our shared facilities, meeting rooms, internet, and also other office facilities. Not just that, we value add our services through our Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center to facilitate further in terms of you may require other business facilitation like setting up company, you may need some company secretarial services, open up a banking account where we can link you up with the right institutions and agencies. Other than that, the ecosystem facilitation, what I mentioned earlier, through the even living lab programs, by having being part of the soft landing zone, we're able to access through the ecosystem for your market accessibility for your business to take on further. And this is to show some of our services and also the visitors that we have had through ever since that we launched our Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center in July 2020. Despite of the pandemic, we're able to see that to link up not just with our local partners, also with international partners, to be ready for investors coming from technology companies and R&D in setting up their presence here in Cyberjaya. So with that, I hope that the insights that I've shared with you would give you some information, and maybe you should have any further inquiries. We definitely look forward for the Q&A session, and also we are accessible through our website at cyberview.com.my, and you can also access online through our Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shafinaz, for the presentation on Cyberjaya ecosystems. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, after this event, we'll be providing a communication channel via Google Forms within 3 days for you to forward any further inquiries to each ministries and agencies in today's RD4B program. We also welcome any feedback, suggestions, and especially brief sharing about your existing or planned R&D projects, if you are open to do so. This will help us as government agencies to understand better your business R&D needs. We will also do our best to collect any remaining questions which haven't been answered in the Q&A box and provide our feedback after the event. We are now almost coming towards the end of our event. So let us hear the closing remarks from Ms. Chu Wai Meng, Executive Director of Strategic Planning, Manufacturing of MIDA.
Jeffrey Ibrahim, CEO of Collaborative Research and Engineering, Science and Technology Center, CRES. Puan Shireen Jasmine Ali, Director, Supply Chain and Business Continuity Section, Industrial Development Division, Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Dr. Wan Noor Aisha binti Wan Omar, Deputy Undersecretary, Policy Planning and Research Division, Ministry of Higher Education. Puan Yogita Muyandi, Principal Assistant Director, Center of Excellence Section, IPT Research Excellence Division, Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Higher Education. Puan Nuraisha binti Khairuddin, Principal Assistant Secretary, Fund Division, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI. Encik Nik Ahmad Syaril bin Nik Muhammad Nabil, Senior Assistant Director, Manufacturing, Trade, Mining, Agriculture and Forestry Consultation Division, Tax Policy Department, Inland Revenue Board. Puan Shafina Salim, Director, Technology Hub Development Division, Cyberview Sendirian Berhad. Good evening, and thank you everyone for joining us at the Research and Development for Business, or in short RD4B today. Respected top managers and aspiring business executives, through this R&D for Business program, I believe that all of you have managed to get an overview of the R&D ecosystem in Malaysia, incentives available and opportunities within it. Looking at the big picture in Malaysia, there's a need to position industries as the demand driver for R&D activities in Malaysia, so that our national R&D priorities are set in the right direction. Thus, with this RD4B program, MIDA hopes to promote involvement of industries in R&D activities and establishment of more R&D entities that can offer R&D services. This RD4B program is also to provide the impactors towards more structured links between R&D ecosystem players, especially between industries and available R&D facilities and capacities, which are actually already available in Malaysia for better collaborations and synergy. In today's event alone, we have managed to gather 7 different organizations which have their own different roles in the Malaysian R&D ecosystem, so that you can have an idea of where to look and what is available. But actually, there are many more organizations in the R&D ecosystem that can assist businesses in developing new products, materials, devices, produce, or processes. Therefore, we hope that you will continue to stay engaged with MIDA and do reach out to us if there's any facilitation needed. Ladies and gentlemen, the rates of commercialization of publicly funded R&D projects have been unpredictable and volatile through the past few decades. Throughout the 1990s, about 5.1% of publicly funded R&D projects were commercialized. However, in the period from 2001-2005, the rate of commercialization fell to 3.4% before increasing again to 8% in the period from 2006 to 2010. Thus, the rate of commercialization for publicly funded R&D remains low and limited. On the other hand, we believe there's much potential for industries in benefiting from this area of R&D and commercialization, R&D&C. Thus, one of the biggest opportunities that's lying around to be tapped by Malaysian businesses is the R&D output of academia or public research institutions and the private sector. Strengthening the linkages between these institutions and industries could deliver potential financial benefits for R&D and drive demand-driven research. I understand that the matchmaking process will certainly be a great challenge, especially on seeing to it that the R&D findings have commercial sense in line with our industry needs, instead of just KPIs on publications and journals for the academia and PRIs. Respected top managers and aspiring business executives, other businesses around the world are already engaging in R&D and commercialization to make sure their products and services can command a higher value in the global market. However, the current trend for Malaysian firms is that only a significant small proportion of us do introduce new products. According to recently published World Bank Group report titled Aiming High, Navigating the Next Stage of Malaysia's Development, only about 3.5% of firms in Malaysia introduced new products over the last 3 years. This is significantly lower than the rate for regional comparators, 20%, and aspirational comparators, 33%. Novelty of new products on both our manufacturing and services sectors cumulatively are also fairly less than 1%. Consequently, our products are mostly unable to compete globally due to market saturation. This shows how much risk there is for businesses that keep on staying as imitators only in the long run. The fact that Malaysian industries are not innovating using R&D and C like the top economies makes all of us in this beloved country particularly vulnerable to technological systematic shifts that affect the global market. At any point of time, we might end up facing creative destruction down our very own noses, just like the classic example of what happened to Nokia. Besides R&D for the production or improvement for new novel products, products or devices, R&D can also encompass new materials or processes. All of these types of R&D can drive the nurturing of the so-called knowledge-based economy, which is driven by intellectual assets that provide economic returns. This is very important for you and all of us here because Malaysia currently has almost exhausted the growth potential that it has due to accumulation of capital. Malaysian businesses cannot compete on low-cost factors anymore and must turn to knowledge or innovation-based business growth. Towards this end, R&D activities which generate new knowledge and know-how is very crucial. It will be very hard to achieve innovation-based business growth if we are dependent upon foreign technologies and expertise. That is why I implore upon you, business managers and executives, to explore ways how you can increase your R&D activities in ways which can benefit your businesses. In fact, it might even very well open up a new market or product segment for your company. You can also become technology companies in your respective fields. If you are competitive enough, I'm sure many companies will start to adopt new technologies and R&D findings developed in Malaysia instead of having to depend on R&D in faraway foreign countries. In this way, Malaysian R&D activities can become an important aspect in the growth of our businesses and economy by providing the inputs needed for more rapid business growth. On the other side of the coin, the R&D activity services itself can also already be considered as an output within the economy. In support of all this, the basic underlying tone in the National Policy on Science, Technology and Innovation, or NPSTI 2021 to 2030, promotes the importance of connecting the science, technology and innovation facilities and capacities that is actually available in Malaysia to our whole economy at large. All of us in Malaysia needs to work towards making our nation an innovative nation that develops technology and not merely imports and uses other people's technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the World Bank Enterprise Survey data, the proportion of firms in Malaysia that engage in some form of research and development at 10.5%, which is higher than its regional peers, but is much lower compared to its transitional and aspirational peers at 22.8 and 30.8% respectively. We need to tackle this urgently since Malaysia is fast entering the high-income countries league, whereby the business gameplay is very much different. This is compounded by the fact that the whole world is also fast changing following this pandemic, which some people refer to as the Great Reset. In fact, I'm sure you all are also pretty much aware that the rate of change is accelerating. Business R&D will become one of the key business functions that needs to be alive and running for businesses to survive and compete in this competitive world. However, I do understand that to do this rapidly would definitely seem like enormous undertaking which can be daunting. To do this, businesses can take advantage of the available platforms such as CRESS and Cyberview to gain access to the wide range of facilities and networking that they have. I'm also confident that it can also provide the necessary advice and guidance if needed to go forward. In summary, this RD4B program presents an outline on some of the specific incentives in-house R&D, commercialization of R&D findings. Besides that, might also have R&D grants for business to develop and incorporate IR 4.0 technologies into your processes. Besides that, ministries such as the Ministry of International Trade and Industry also share their product development grants. Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation with the grants and network of research agencies, and Ministry of Higher Education with the grants and the network of research centers in universities. On top of that, our Inland Revenue Board has given an understanding of the tax reliefs for R&D expenditures. CRESS have also shared the facilitations that they have to bridge academia and industries. And finally, Cyberview Sdn Bhd, as custodian of Cyberjaya, explained on the facilities and testing sites available there. Before I end my closing address, I would like to record our great appreciation to all these ministries and agencies who have been very kind to participate in the program today. Hopefully, we can foster these collaborations further. In fact, we hope to be able to collaborate with even many more entities related to our Malaysian R&D ecosystem that we are yet to be able to engage. To all the participants today, I would like to congratulate you for investing your time to explore how we can boost R&D activities among businesses in Malaysia. The government and the private sector definitely need to work hand in hand to grow our economy for the benefit of everyone in our Malaysian society. Transforming our economic model to the next stage is certainly an arduous journey. There will be many lessons and challenges for all of us to learn, and so hopefully we'll be able to work together and grow together through all of it. We also look forward to hearing your feedbacks on today's program, and so any expression of interest to undertake R&D projects so that we can facilitate and follow through to see if we can realize those ideas. With that, we thank you very much and looking forward to meeting you again in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Chu, for the closing remarks. Now we would like to invite all the speakers to turn on your videos so we can take a group screenshots. Okay. Thank you to all speakers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's event. We hope that all participants are benefiting from this program, and I would like to thank you for taking your time off your work to participate in today's event. For your information, all the keynotes and remarks from today's event will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, tagged at MIDA soon, and will be accessible for all of you. We'd like to also record our utmost appreciation to all our panelists today for your time and contribution in making this program a success, and share your knowledge and expertise with us today. We hope that participants in today's RD4B program will be able to identify areas of opportunities within the Malaysian business R&D ecosystem. Thank you and have a nice day ahead. Looking forward to meeting you again sometime soon. Until then, take care and stay safe.